Commercials and advertisements, they're everywhere. Whether we like it or not, they're a part of everyday life. Whether that has to be a bad thing or not is entirely dictated to the companies making them, which led to a lot of companies either just straight up being lazy or producing the most horrible thing known to mankind: mobile game advertisements. So join me, my friend, as we go to this journey of advertisements and commercials. But wait, I don't have anything that I can use for visual aid. If only there was a convenient device I could use to put things on the screen without it breaking immersion. Oh wait, I do! Give me 1 second. Hang on, it's coming. And more. There we go! Done! I present to you, my friend, the Memo-Vision, the greatest piece of technology to ever exist. And they were never able to replicate this thing again. I bought it at a yard sale. Anyways, it's going to help me convey what I'm trying to tell you by putting helpful images on screen. And I will be using this quite a bit, so get used to it. It'll help with copyright as well. Part 1, where it all began. To truly understand something, sometimes you have to go back to its roots. This is definitely one of those times. I'm not gonna bore you with the long history of advertisements, I'm just gonna jump right into it. Advertising as we know it has changed a lot over time, but at the same time has stayed relatively the same. Most of these commercials you're seeing on the Memo-Vision are inherently simple, and it's by design. I'm cutting a lot of them off when they show off the product for a reason, is to show the inherent simplicity of it. They were inherently simple because they weren't trying to hack your brain, they were just trying to sell you product. And you would buy product, and they worked. But that's not to say every product was necessarily good. Let us not forget that there was cocaine in a few of those products from the time. And we now know what that does to people. But probably the biggest advertising strategy still used today is just use characters to sell your product. This has been going on for a long while and is nothing new. Although most of the time it was typically cartoon characters. Probably one of the more infamous examples of this would be like the Flintstones selling cigarettes. And yes, the Flintstones are smoking cigarettes. Believe it or not, the Flintstones was catered to adults, not children. I know that might be a little hard to believe considering how incredibly family-friendly the Flintstones actually is. But yeah, it's meant for adults, not children. Children just so happen to enjoy it as well. Which kind of led to this advertising aging incredibly poorly for various reasons. In a sense of poetic irony, both Barney and Wilma died of lung cancer, at least their actors did. Which is quite unfortunate and also quite ironic at the same time. Let that be a lesson to you, never do cigarettes, they're awful. It's also worth noting that the Flintstones later went on to have one of the best-selling children's vitamins on the market. Yeah, talk about irony. But as all things do, they change and evolve. And so did commercials. Which brings us to Part 2. The modern day. Kinda. Around this time, companies really started to get a better marketing budget and a better understanding of their audience. With that came more interesting advertisements. All these advertisements were either surreal, in your face, or will let you know that they are hip and cool with the times. Especially the 90s. Unless it's a pharmaceutical ad, in which case, they're all the same. I could literally put one on screen and you would probably not be able to tell which one it is, just by that alone. But either way, it does end up making for some great entertainment from these advertisements. All of them are straight up weird and wacky for the sake of being weird and wacky. A lot of companies were starting to pop up around this time, so they had to fight for your eyeballs. And fight they did. And from that battleground came the most interesting, surreal, and experimental advertising we have ever seen in our lifetimes. Which has led to a lot of weird advertisements, especially things from Sony. Seriously, what is that era of the PlayStation even about? If you remove the PlayStation at the end, would anyone truly know what it even means? The answer is probably not. As a result, a lot of companies were really trying to get your attention. Especially around this time, DVDs and DVRs showed up, so they had to really introduce a new concept to television, and that's called advertisements that don't suck and aren't completely boring. And so they did. And with this came America's favorite advertising campaign disguised as a sports game, the Super Bowl. This is pretty much where a lot of the best ads came from. All the memorable ads you know of and love, yeah, they came from the Super Bowl more than likely. All of that had to do with the fact that companies tend to spend a lot of money during the Super Bowl games, and they tend to make bank. They tend to make their commercials pretty damn memorable. And frankly, some of the best commercials ever made are from the Super Bowl, so yeah, you have that to thank. Well, either that, or it's a celebrity commercial where the only thing that matters is the celebrity, and if you don't care about the celebrity in question, well, the advertising kind of falls flat. Unfortunately, that was also a big thing around this time. A lot of companies also straight up got lazy and decided to make celebrity commercials where they just, oh look, here is celebrity selling product. You know celebrity, and celebrity is using product. Therefore, you want product, right? You want to be like celebrity, yes? Buy product. They sucked. Sometimes they were good. Most of the time, they were boring and repetitive, and followed a strict formula. Or fall under the trying too hard category. Whichever is worse, I'll leave up to you, dear viewer. They weren't always bad either. They used to actually be somewhat good. In fact, some commercials actually hired some famous directors to actually shoot commercials. Probably one of the more famous ones that I'm sure you probably heard of to death by now, so I'm not going to waste too much time on it, is the 1984 commercial from Apple. And yes, this is from Apple, the same company that sometimes acts like it lives in 1984 with how restrictive they are. Oh, the fucking irony. I'm beginning to see a trend here, and I'm not liking it. Which unfortunately brings us to the final part. Buckle up, cause you're gonna see some disturbing content. Part 3. The Internet Age. And mobile game ads, but that's beside the point. The internet was revolutionary for advertising. And everything else for that matter. That's beside the point. One of the big things that changed in advertising was the fact that the internet made it so much easier and more convenient for people, especially for advertisers who could just give their information to Google and say, hey, we want this audience, go give us this audience, send the ads to this audience. And that was a big deal for the time, and today. And probably till the end of time, really. Because Google holds a monopoly on ads, and unfortunately, that's kind of the problem. And that has led to a serious quality control issue because of this monopoly. I mean, I love YouTube and all that, but seriously, there is no quality control when it comes to advertisements on this site. I swear you could break copyright on this site and they wouldn't bat an eye. One time I saw an advertisement that used Mr. Krabs for like a loan or something. I don't know what it is, but I'll kind of make a makeshift image of what it looked like. If anyone could possibly point to me what that was, or even knows what I'm talking about to begin with, I would be very appreciative if you could leave a comment possibly telling me what that is I'm referring to, or if you even know. Either way, it does get us to our next point, which is mobile game advertisements. mobile games in general have kind of gone downhill. Quite a bit, actually. A lot of them used to be really simple and fun, and now most of them are either Unity asset flips or just straight up scams. But that's a story for another day, and a video for another day. For now, we're talking about the advertisements. And as mobile games in general have gone down in quality, so have the advertisements. Most of them were just really simple in the beginning, to the point where it's not really gonna do any good to show you them because they're kind of just simple. Like, really, like, they're just gameplay, that's it. But what you're wanting is the really bad stuff. The stuff I'm showing you right now on the Mimo Vision. And let me tell you, this is where the real man-made horrors behind comprehension lie. Mobile games. These advertisements have never been particularly good, and they seem to just get worse and worse every fucking day. I genuinely don't know what happened, or why it happened. It just happened. What's even worse is that some of these aren't even real games. Yeah, a lot of them are fake. Or kinda fake. Some of them might have a section in the game, but not be the game itself. It got to the point where people actually wanted to play these games, so someone actually made a compilation of these games. It's called, yeah, you want those games? So let's see, clear them or whatever. I'll put it on the Mimo Vision. It's like $10. Is it worth $10? That's up to you. But either way, it does show that there's a market, and these fake games have certainly driven people up. And probably one of the biggest scummy tactics that these advertisements use is rage baiting. Unfortunately, rage baiting is a very simple yet effective tactic on the internet. I would show you an example, but I'd need less to show you other than just go to an average day on twitter.com. You will find a shit show there every single day. Rage baiting is what keeps that site alive, it seems like, unfortunately. It's why I stay away from it. But as a whole, these advertisements tend to use tactics like, oh, I'm gonna do the stupidest thing known to man, and completely fuck it up. You can do better than that, right? You can do better. You see the problem. This is just propaganda, but different reasons. It's basically tricking your brain into saying, oh, that guy's an idiot. I can do better than that. I can do better. Maybe I should download this game and do it. And that's kind of the problem, is that these companies don't particularly trust that their games are good enough on their own. They need to use malicious tactics. They need to use psychological warfare just to get you to download their shitty mobile game and play their 50 bazillion advertisements. Yeah, the irony of these mobile games is that a lot of them are just chock full of ads. Like, a lot of them are chock full of ads. Probably the biggest example of probably the worst thing known to man is gacha ads. The thing about gacha ads is that they all look about the same. Probably because they all got outsourced to the same companies. Probably also because a lot of these gacha games are made in China. So yeah, that might have something to do with it. Especially some of the weird voice acting in some of these, like they're very poorly dubbed over. You can definitely tell some of these are just extremely poorly dubbed over clips. Well, that or just reuse assets from the game and make it seem like it's completely different from what it actually is. Now, that's not to say that all gacha games did this. Mostly the popular ones, you know, your Azure Lanes, your MiHoYo games, and a few others, they didn't do this because they don't really need to do it. They're already popular. They don't need to use misleading advertising. All that said, even some more well-known franchises actually did, like notably One Punch Man. Yeah, One Punch Man! One of the most popular animes of all time still even use this marketing tactic for their game. And let me remind you that before Season 2 came out, One Punch Man was one of the most well-regarded animes, and even people who haven't watched anime, or don't even care that much about anime, watched One Punch Man. So that should really tell you how effective these marketing can truly be if even popular series are using it. Of course, there is some that are at least somewhat self-aware. I hope they're self-aware anyway. Most notably Figure Fantasy, which, I'm not gonna lie, just straight up used the Joker from Joker 2016, it's Joker, to basically advertise their game about figures. Have I mentioned that this is a game about collecting figurines and having them battle? Yeah! What does this have to do with the Joker? I don't know. I'll probably put a little skit here just for funsies. You see, Batman, I gotta get my plastic, Batman. I gotta have my microplastics, Batman. It's gotta feed my addiction, Batman. I gotta feed my plastic addiction, Batman.
Joker, you have a problem. You need to seek help.
No, Batman. I need my plastic, Batman. I need my figurines, Batman. I need my figurine JPEGs as well, Batman.
Joker, stop buying Funko Pops.
No, Batman, you don't understand. I need my Funko Pops, Batman. I need the Funko Pops, Batman. But probably the advertisement that you've already gotten on this video more than likely is Hero Wars. In fact, they are so infamous that they are pretty much known as one of the worst commercials of all time. Probably because you get to see them every time you click on the site. Doesn't matter if you got a VPN or not and go to a different country, you will see these advertisements. You are not immune to propaganda, my friend. You are subjugated to it. And thankfully, I don't have to search the internet for these damn things. There's actually a YouTube channel dedicated to collecting these damn advertisements. I don't know who you are, but I thank you. And unfortunately, that's where our story ends here, with terrible advertisements. I would normally like to have this end on a positive note, but sadly, I think it's only going to get worse from here. The unfortunate thing is advertisements over time have just gotten worse and worse and worse, and they're more than likely going to continue to get worse. We've seen a decline already, but then again, it's always a scale. It's never gotten this bad before. The internet truly has enabled such brain rot. Well, if you made it this far, I say thank you. And also, I'm very sorry if anything I said came off incorrectly. I have a horrible stutter sometimes, and that really affects what I'd say half the time. If anything I say came off weird, or it came off like I said something else altogether than what I meant, I apologize. There's nothing I can do about that. I will try to improve over time, but please do keep in mind I'm relatively new to this sort of thing.